Well, President Trump says that the U.S. will now guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz, calling that mission Project Freedom. The U.S. military says that 2 U.S.-flagged vessels successfully transited the strait earlier. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard called that a lie. The head of Iran's army warns that U.S. aircraft carriers approaching the straits would face cruise missiles and combat drones. Earlier, the U.S. rejected claims from Tehran that a U.S. warship had been hit by incoming Iranian fire. Joining me now, retired U.S. Navy Commander Sean Henseler. Commander, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
So first of all, does this look to you like a ceasefire, right? I mean, it's certainly being tested because fire's going in both directions. In your view, has it fallen apart, even if diplomatic talks are continuing?
I don't think it has fallen apart. I think to try to make sense of what you've seen over the last 24 to 48 hours, you have to see it in light of the larger context of the negotiations between the two sides, where they're still obviously very far apart. And each side thinks they have leverage to obtain their objectives. And one of the key bits of leverage Iran obviously thinks it has is its ability to control the Strait of Hormuz. So I think the U.S. Project Freedom, in conjunction with the announcement of a new UN Security Council resolution focused on the Strait, is all an effort to try to reduce the amount of leverage or the perceived leverage that Iran has over the Strait of Hormuz. So I think this is very much in line with trying to continue the negotiations, but there's quite a bit of risk that attaches to this move by the United States.
Well, the behavior of shipping through the Strait would seem to indicate that Iran does have leverage, right? Because it does not appear, I mean, shipping has certainly not returned to pre-war levels here. I mean, is Iran correct that it maintains leverage?
So I think right now the United States is trying to decrease what de facto seems to be Iran's ability to control the Strait. And the big risk, so there's obviously risk to U.S. forces, U.S. Navy ships going through. There's a risk of escalation for sure. But the biggest risk to me is the risk that the merchant ship industry, as was just pointed out, does not see this risk to, brought down to the level where it's willing to go through, which then almost proves that, that Iran does have this leverage. So there's a risk that attaches to this for sure.
Okay, so in terms of an answer to this, President Trump is proposing not an escort, but guidance, helping those ships through, I imagine using intelligence, right, to find the safest pathway, but he's not, sending the destroyers in, as it were, to get them through. Is that an equivalent?
I think you're right. I think that the U.S. today did send 2 destroyers through. They had done mine countermeasures previously to try to suggest that there was at least open lanes through what Iran claimed to be areas where they laid mines. And they try to get U.S. flagged merchant ships out today, all in an effort to try to lead from the front, if you will, and convince others that the risk is brought down. But I think the report, it's not going to happen anytime soon, Jim. My knowledge of the merchant shipping industry, it's going to take weeks of sustained, peaceful, in that area before they're willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, are we seeing here the success, in effect, of an Iranian asymmetric strategy? I mean, they certainly can't contend with the U.S. Navy there, small boats, et cetera, drones. But the trouble is, they don't have to have anything close to 100% success rate, right? They just have to have the threat of getting a few mines or a few drones or a few missiles through.
That's right, Jim. And that's why I don't think this idea of it was never intended to be a convoy escort type of mission. The idea was to suggest that there was this, defensive umbrella. And if you went close enough to the Omani side of the strait, that defensive umbrella, the air superiority that we have, the ability to take out, IRGC go fasters and drones and the like, would be, sufficient enough for the merchant shipping industry to say the risk is brought down. Yeah. But as you pointed out, it only takes one to get through. And it just happened today to the South Korean ship, and a couple of drones, fired in the vicinity of UAE. And I think Iran has proven that, like you said, it only takes a few leakers to let the shipping industry and the insurance industry know it is not safe yet to go through.
Does this suggest to you strategically that there is no military solution to this problem, right? That you need a negotiated solution? You need Iran to remove the threat? Because, I mean, if the ships don't buy the assurances of the U.S. Navy today, I mean, will they over time, or do you have to negotiate your way out of this?
Everything that I've heard from the merchant shipping industry, it has to be a negotiated settlement, followed up by some type of mine countermeasures that are proven, and an escort type of mission that is an internationally approved mission. And so it has to be negotiated. And, another risk that the U.S. is buying here is that UN Security Council resolution, last time it was vetoed by Russia and China. And so if it's vetoed again, this two-pronged effort of Project Freedom and the UN Security Council resolution, may not be sufficient. And we're right back to, Iran having that leverage that they thought they had going in. So there's a lot of risk here, but I understand why the United States is trying to do it. Yeah. I mean, they want to break the impasse at some point in these negotiations.
Commander Sean Henseler, good to have you on.